And Michelle, you want to come do the intro?
Yes, I'm so happy to say Diego's here from our Tracy KW office. We've been working with each other for over.
8 years,
No, 8
10
years.
years.
I was gonna say even further, but okay, yeah.
Let's say decades.
Okay, yeah, that just sounds good. And also sounds. But yes, I'm so excited because he's one of the top listing agents in the Valley. He is very forward thinking. He's going to share with you a lot of good little new techniques. He's come up with a great little contest that he's going to put you guys on. So I'm excited about that. So Diego, thank you from the bottom of my
Yeah,
heart.
thank you guys for having me. So the way I did the class is something that I thought, like, what would I pay $500 for in a class? This is it. A little bit background on me. I think I did right under 35 million last year. We do about a listing a week for our team. So we're very consistent with that. I know our listings coming up before they're here, just the way that we do our business. Hi, brother. And give shout out to the OG right there. So first of all, I like to always start a story. Does anyone know who Johnny Appleseed is? Do you think it's a real person or a fake person?
Real, just real.
Real person. Yes, it's part of the Tall Tales, Paul Bunyan, a railroad guy, some other people, but Johnny Appleseed was an actual real person. He was strange at times. He was a vegetarian. He went around past apple seeds everywhere. So back in the day, the type of apples he had, we would automatically think it'd be the type you eat. It wasn't the type you eat. The water quality back in 1800s was terrible. So most people crushed the apples up, threw some water in there, let it fermentate, and had hard apple cider. And so they preferred drinking the apple cider than, but it was big business. So the guy was an absolute genius. He started in Virginia, and by the time of his death, he owned thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land. Well, how did he do that? Well, plant seeds here. Well, he would start up, he was good at, he was a farmer, so he knew how to start apple orchards up. So he'd have a bunch of people invest in his apple orchards. They would get their portion of the apples, and he would get to keep the land. Well, he kept doing that. So the time is that he had, hundreds of thousands of acres. He was a very wealthy man. He didn't use any of his money, gave it all to his sister, and his sister retired the rest of her life. Reason I'm saying that is what we do in our business is we need to plant seeds, lots and lots of seeds. Some will sprout up very quickly, like a tomato or pea plant will, and some take forever, like a big tree. Right? Our goal is to plant as many seeds as possible. I'm gonna start from like basic new agent, and I'll take that to more advanced stuff. So, when an agent starts, there's so many things that people have you do. You got to go to this training, you got to learn the contract, you got to get your business card, you got to go to the CVAR or whatever the local association board meeting is. You got to get your right clothes, you got to buy that white BMW, right? You start to just get overwhelmed. And I've seen people do this where like 6 months of the business, they haven't closed the deal, but they've gone to every single meeting, every single event from the title company, from the home warranty company, from just every group, and they've closed one deal. There's so many distractions for us. All the things I've mentioned do not make you money at all, right? And they're big distractions. I tell people I'd rather you fail than attend some of those events that really take too much of your time. So the first thing is, Michelle mentioned, I have a challenge for it. I call it the cell phone challenge. All right, so here's the cell phone challenge. So everyone look at the phone, you can see how many contacts you have. So most people have an average of about 2,500 contacts. So if you go to Z on your Apple phone, or if you go to contacts, you'll see how many contacts you have. So the first person that finds it, shout out their number.
1,000.
Okay. I mean,
1,012.
Michelle had, I think, the most I've heard of. What was yours?
Over 4,000. 4,042.
So her challenge would be a little tougher than everyone else.
But hey, if anybody wants to go toe to toe with me, let's do it. I would love it.
So here's the challenge. Go to your phone, all right, we talk about, when you go in, every single person on your phone should know that you're a real estate agent. Now, you can get some that they are real estate agent, you're not gonna get their business. But every single other person that you know on your phone should know, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, thank you for plumbing that you did a while back ago. I'm in real estate, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell real estate? All right, so that's the cell phone challenge, especially I recommend any new agent to do that. Just automatically do it. Our team's goal is to have 30 contacts a day. That's 10 contacts an hour, right? So just your phone would take you a couple of months, maybe a month and a half or something to do. So if you, the first 3 hours of your day should be lead generated. Unfortunately, as agents, we like to do everything but lead generate. We'd rather check our social media, we'd rather cook a bagel. We'd rather talk to the agent that's next door. We'd rather do a preview, post a video about you're watching your inspector do his property. The number one thing you should do, and this is all agents, that's why when you see an agent that consistently does business, they put the work into it and they continue to do that. All right, that's probably the most difficult thing to do is because you're in real estate, you're only as good as your last deal. You have to be consistent, and consistency is very hard to do. So there's my cell phone challenge. Anyone that's done it, you're going to have some success from it, and it's already people that you could have reached. Because out of those people, they might know someone else that that's looking to buy or sell or needs a loan. I think buyers are great, but they take a lot of your time. Immense amount of time. I have a buyer right now that Marissa's one of my lenders that I work with. I have a buyer right now that I spent tons of time with. Right, sellers don't take as much of your time, and they help generate buyers for you. Right, so this class is about sellers. We want as many sellers as possible. I know a lot of people when they first start, they just work buyers, and that's great, but you need to focus on sellers.
Sellers, buyers aren't loyal to you either.
They are not.
You can take them all over the city of Sacramento, around Placerville, and then their agent is out of town, basically. Their agent doesn't want to come, you do the work, and then their agent gets the business. And I understand they're trying to clamp down on that right now,
Sure.
where they hold you to it, but I haven't heard people that enforce it that much.
That's so I've been doing real estate. This will be my 19th years coming up. That's been going from when I first started. All right. So buyers, I would be secondary to sellers any day of the week. Once you're in a contract with them, it's committed to. It's hard for them to leave unless you're not doing their job.
Right.
So my class today is about getting sellers, and I'll spend some time on the presentation as well. Listings are how you build your business. It really is. You want listings, you want exposure, you want other buyers, because once you have a listing, it's easier to get a buyer because now there's a legitimacy in your head already that they see. They're like, well, they sold a house in the area I want to be in. I'd like to work with that agent. Let me tell you a secret. Most productive listing agents are terrible buyers agents because they focus only on sellers and they only cherry pick. That's the honest truth. People that you don't know are infinitely bigger than the people you know. So let's talk about putting things in your CRM. Any person you run across, I don't care who they are, you need to get their info, put them on pipeline. I'm gonna give you a story. I had a seller that put in my CRM, and a year goes by. See, he keeps getting emails and no response whatsoever. There's no like, I'm doing nothing. Just put him in. At least a year, maybe more. He's like, he calls me, hey, I've been getting your emails. I'd love you to come list my property. Now I look back and I said, I look back at all the updates we did. So I called him a couple times, put him on drip campaign. Honestly, I didn't do enough. And I was like, okay, I probably contacted him 20 times, 10 of those times were through automation. And I'm like, man, I made like $400 a text or $400 a call. I'd do it for 25 bucks, I'd call them. There'd be no question. All right, so I'm gonna talk about a couple different ways that you can get some listings. One way, we'll start with buyers. Majority of buyers now are not selling their home. The market changed, it used to be like 30%, is that right, Barbara? And now, from talking to agents I know, it's probably down to about 10% of agents, I'm sorry, of buyers that need to sell their home in order to buy another house. Well, there's a ton of buyers on the fence now that the interest rates, by the way, thank God, interest rates just dropped 6.8. I was excited. I was drinking my coffee, saw that, and I was like, oh yeah.
I was calling agents like, where's the contract? I want to get them locked today.
It's nice when that does, and it's gonna bring some people that want to sell their home, because there's people sell their houses when there's a life event that happens. I can't even count how many buyers I have where one of the mom is pregnant, expect another kid. They already have 2 other kids, and they're in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. That's not gonna work. Right now, we literally have people that are stuck in situations they don't want to be in. So as soon as rates drop at all, they're going to start pulling that trigger. So we're probably that 10% is going to go to our normal 30%. You should definitely be aware on how to sell a house and buy a house. It's a very complicated process. You can, Kelly, how many times have we done it together? Countless. And there's a process to it. We don't want our sellers to be homeless, but if you know the process already, that buyer is more likely to work with you. That's the easiest way to get a good listing. Another way to get a good listing is, well, got this nice sticky chart here. So what's a neighborhood? Lindsay, what's a neighborhood that you like to work in? You have a buyer right now.
Oh, the neighborhood. Oh, I'll just say birdcage because it's right here.
Okay, so birdcage. Each of these lovely squiggle marks are houses. Let's spell right now. Birdcage. So you have a buyer in there, you can't get them in contract because there's no inventory. So I'm going to teach you how to get a listing and help out that buyer. Number one, you can do a golden letter. Does anyone know what a golden letter is? Whoever said yes, what's the golden letter?
You're sending out a specific letter to everyone in the neighborhood. In there, it's how can I get you to buy it?
So we know how to do it, but we rarely do it. Why? It doesn't cost us that much. To send out a letter, less than $50, we can cover that whole neighborhood of 100 properties. So let's just say this area is 100 homes. It's probably 100 to 300 homes, something like that.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say 100 to 300 homes. So we can send a letter out. Letter, I was attached a photo, said, hey, this lovely family, we're looking for a home, please let us know. And our return of phone calls is about 1 to 3% from that. Now, not every one of those houses is going to work, but there's 1 to 3 listings that you could possibly be on there. Okay. Another way is you door knock this whole area. Every agent loves door knocking, especially in this heat, right? If you've sold a house in that neighborhood, it's even better. It's even easier to door knock. Hey, I sold a house on Birdcage Road. Is there Birdcage Road?
Yes.
Yes.
Birdcage. Yeah.
There you go. I sold a house on Birdcage Road. I have another buyer that's looking in this immediate area. Do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell in this neighborhood? Right? You're not asking if they're looking for it. You're asking if they know anyone else. And most of the time, they'll tell you the information before the neighbor who actually wants to sell them does. Hey, I just talked to Barbara. She said that you might be interested in selling the house. I have a buyer right now that would love to pay market value. That's the key. Market value for your home. I'm not trying to get a deal. So I'm buying it for you. My buyer wants to pay market value for the house. And if you use me, I usually charge 6%, but I'm willing to do it for 4%. Right? That sounds great. And would you guys like a 4% commission? Yeah, guess how many times I've done this? Like 10 or 12 times, last couple of years. All right, because we're targeting, especially with cash buyers, you can, you have a cash buyer and you're not doing this? Get out of here. Are you really working for your buyer, especially if it's like 800,000 or 900,000? What's the average price point in Birdcage?
Not a lot, like 400.
Okay, so say
It's a lot
400,000.
of condos and townhouses.
$400,000 check, still 10,000, at least a $10,000 check. I'm still going all after that. All right, so we door knocked in. Does anyone know what circle prospecting is? Okay, whoever said yes, tell us what circle prospecting is.
It's calling the houses in the area of a property that you just sold.
We've heard about it. How many times have we done it? Never.
A few, but it's scary.
It is scary. First of all, we have to make sure it's not on the do not call list, right? Since it's such a small list, you can have your title company do it. So what's the local one? Is it Placer?
Counselors under us.
Yeah, call Placer up and say, hey, I need a list for a Birdcage. And they'll get you a list. You use that list, skip trace it, get all the phone numbers for the people, and then run it through the do not call list. We also run it through a litigious claims list. So anyone that's filed lawsuits, we want to make sure that list is clean.
How do you do that?
Kevin,
There's a website, it's called Batch Leads. You get a membership, Batch Leads. And you get a membership, you get a personal one, I think it's like $99 a month. It's kind of expensive if you don't have that marketing expenses. But what you get for that is 12 cents a lead. So if you're, like for us, what we're doing a lot of marketing right now. We're doing 20,000 properties and we're skip tracing them and we pay about $2,800. But for that $2,800, we get the skip trace, the do not call list and litigations list. And so we also have another third-party company that scrubs that list one more time for the do not call list, because sometimes they do miss some things. So we kind of go overboard because we don't want to get sued, right? That's the last thing we want.
Is running it through something like Vortex not, because I know Vortex scrubs for the DNC.
We've never worked with Vortex.
we're doing it at much bigger scales.
Just introduce your man right here.
Yeah, Scott County's on my team. How long have you been in the business?
2.5 years, roughly.
All right, this guy's sharp. He's a
Yes,
big
he's a
thing.
capper. That's
Yeah.
important.
So circle prospecting. Okay, so we still haven't found it. We called everyone. What else do we do? For rent. Where do we look for rent? Zillow, Craigslist, rent.com probably. All the rental websites you could possibly think of. If there's any homes for rent in this area that my buyer is looking for, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna say, hey, this is Diego Keller Williams. I know that you're looking for renter property. This checks every single box that my buyer is looking for. Would you be open to an, what do I say again? Market value offer for your home. And if it's for rent for a while, or they put a ton of money into it, they want to get that back. They're like, yeah, if it's market value, that's literally what people repeat to me. Yeah, it's market value. I'll definitely consider that. Now, this is something where you have to break your barrier. As Michelle would say, right? We have to push through our barrier because our gut instinct's like, oh, I don't want to call for rent people. Okay, number 5. Expires. I don't know why we don't do this anyways, right? We already have a buyer. We want to get a seller and a buyer, so we can make at least a 4%, maybe a 6% commission. So we go all the expired leads. Has anyone called expired before? Okay, it's different when you're asking just for a listing. Hey, I have someone already. Does that sound better? All right, so we're gonna call all the expired. We go back a year, at least a year. So anyone that hasn't, that they're placed in that whole birdcage area that hasn't sold in 1 year, I'm going back to your tourists. Okay, so golden letter, door knocking, circle circle prospecting for rent expired. Let me think of one more here.
What about defaults? People who are on defaults.
Notice defaults, I would say, so NOD list. I think is good. You gotta have a little bit more guts to do it. Just warn you ahead of time, you're either gonna get your door slammed in your face, County.
Yeah, we're cussed out over the phone, yeah.
So when we did the circle prospecting, we could have contacted them, but we door knocked them as well. We probably would have hit it as well. All right, so these are most of the ways that we do it. There's some other little things that you can do. I think these are probably the easiest. Any ahas from this, guys?
What, what's the last one?
NOD list, notice the default. You guys have any questions on this? Make sense?
How frequently do you send out something like a golden letter? Is it like a one-time thing to like to that area?
Yes.
Okay,
First, I have to have a really committed buyer. I'm not gonna do this for a buyer that I just met one time. I'm talking to someone where I've already tried to show their house, couldn't find it. I say, hey, I'm gonna send a letter to your behalf. Do you mind if I do it? I'll send them a copy of the letter. I said, do you mind if I add a photo to it? Because that helps.
is that allowed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, you have to get their permission to use their photo. I send them a copy of what I'm sending. And we had ones where like the buyer wanted to write something like, hey, we really love this neighborhood. We want to be part of this community. Those letters are the best.
I just thought that was a slippery slope now.
That's for,
But this
Yeah.
is kind of similar. I mean, if the person is of a different race and they don't want to move forward because of that, I mean, they're still kind of open for.
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Barbara, do you see any issues with it?
Yeah, I guess it is a little slippery, but
Yeah.
Well, they haven't made a commitment to sell.
Yeah,
so they're not
you're
ready
gonna-
to sell.
the house, yeah, it's not on the market.
Yeah. Most of the stuff we're talking about is something that you want to work on immediately. Right, you want to plant immediately, when we talk about, these are seeds that can harvest immediately. It's not something where 6 months down the line. Some of those would happen as well. You get calls, hey, I remember that you went by and I really like how you door knock. You guys do this for all your sellers or all your buyers? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, I want you to work with me. Right, you'll get people like that. So you're just planting as many seeds as possible. So I want to talk a little bit about the doing open houses. What is one person you can guarantee that'll go to your open house? Every time, neighbors.
Right.
When a neighbor comes in my open house, I'm going full blown. Right, I'm like, hey, welcome to the open house. You're in the neighborhood. I love this neighborhood. Did you see the professional photos online? Did you look at our flyers? Our flyers are great. You want a pastry, you want some water, you want an orange or whatever, providing, right? We had one of our contractors paint the outside of the house. What do you think of that outside of the house? Right? I'm going full blown with the neighbors. Why am I doing that?
Because if they want a list, you want them to remember you.
The worst thing, like literally, it feels like a kick to my stomach if I see a listing on this, like, because once people see your sign, they're like, oh, maybe we should sell too. You know, our neighbor Susie's selling, maybe we should think about selling too. And then you see a sign come up, and you're like, I should have door knocked that. Oh my gosh, I should have talked to them. She came to my open house, right? The worst thing I hate, oh, you did calls. You know what oh, you did call is? Oh, you did call is you call them, and, hey, I wanted to see, you're one of the neighbors, I have a buyer looking for it, and then you hear, oh, you did list the house already? And I should have called you the first week of my open house, but I didn't, and now they're listing with someone else. All right, so neighbors, I can't tell you how many times I've listed homes that were neighbors, don't have two signs in the same street. I've done it multiple times, multiple times. So that's why you door knock, that's why you call, that's why you send out flyers. And that's why you're super nice to the nosy neighbor. Because they're a potential, that's another seed, right? Every time we're talking, you're planting all these different seeds. Every single person you run across should know what your business is. The top agents that I know are probably the, I wouldn't say rudest, but most aggressive people you've ever seen. So the top 1% of agents, they'll get in your face, hey, are you looking to buy? Here you go, here's a card. You're not gonna use anyone other than me. Hi, I'm Lindsay, here you go, here's my card, right? Are you looking to buy or sell? Do you know what else is looking to buy or sell? You should be a walking billboard. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Steven was like, don't be a secret agent, I love that. Right? Secret realtor or secret, there's no other business where people hide what they do. It always dumbfounds me. There's two different types of agents out there. Agents that answer the phones and agents that don't. I have no idea to this day, I can't figure out how agents don't answer their phones. I still do not. I had a deal, I'm not gonna name names, but I put an all cash offer in. Call, text, email. And my whole thing is, Joey, I always tell you this, we blow up their phone until we get a hold of them. It didn't work. Right? Days go by, we had an all cash offer above asking price. I still don't hear anything back from that person. A week and a half later, it goes pending. I'm like, hey, what happened? They said, oh, they accepted a higher offer. So, okay, well, that happens. You're like, what happened with the communication? Click. I didn't hear from them. Deal closes was like $2,000 higher than my offer. And things like that happen. It pissed me off. Right? Things like that happen. You really feel like they were working for their seller. Now I saw that the other offer was it was a loan offer. My offer was cash. Would you have thought that would have been a good idea to counter my seller's offer, or my buyer's offer? Right? Well, things like that catch up very quickly. It's such a small real estate world. I don't know how any more to say. It's so small. Now I could be in Sacramento, run into someone that I know. Right? And I'm in Tracy. It's just a small world. Agents will run into each other no matter what. And moral of the story is, if you're a good agent that represents their buyer or seller, make sure you answer your phone. That goes a long way. To the point where I'm like, oh, thank you. You got your phone and able to answer my seller, my buyer's information. We just want to know what title company you prefer, or whatever the question is, right? So my train of thought is, there's never a point where you're going to be too busy to call back someone. So when you guys make it big, still call people back.
9 times out of 10, the agent that calls me and asks me, how do you want me to write the offer? They're the ones that can do offer.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, your client like 30 days rent back. I'm gonna write that up. Maybe that's something that wasn't on the MLS, and only if you talked to the agent, you would have found that information out. I'm gonna talk about a couple things. I don't use pre-listing packets. I know that they're used. I feel like our age that everyone uses the same marketing material. I suggest you use Canva or something else, because I've done the listing appointments, and there's 3 different CMAs from the Metro list. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm different, so I come in. So one of the strategies I'm using now, and I think it's amazing, every time I've done this, I've gotten a listing, is how many people have internet in their homes? Pretty much everybody, right? Have you ever gone to a home that doesn't have internet? Maybe if it's vacant, that's probably it. How many people have big screen TVs? Pretty much everyone, right? I asked kindly, hey, do you mind if I use your internet? I want to show you a presentation. So I'll cast to the TV, and instead of like I'll give them a CMA also, but as I really want to show you how I came up with this value. And now we're partners in crime on this. So we're like, okay, here's the neighborhood. Is this really the same neighborhood? They'll be like, no, that's actually they're bigger lot homes. It's a whole different, they're custom homes. My house is really in this neighborhood. So we're doing this thing together. What does every seller do before the listing appointment? They look at Zillow, Realtor.com. I hate all those sites, but what number do I know for a fact before I even get there? I know the Zillow price, I know the Redfin price, I know the Realtor.com price. I've called all the agents area, asked how many offers they've got on things, right? Do your research way ahead of time. Do your market research. So I work in several different markets, so if I'm going to Oakland, there is a sewer lateral report that has to be done. There is a sidewalk ordinance, that sounds insane, right? But if your sidewalk's not good, the seller pays for the sidewalk. Buyers expect roof, home, termite inspection done, foundation inspection done, all ahead of time. Is that similar here, or is that not the case? Okay.
Slowly getting.
Okay, so we're in the Bay Area, we're doing all the inspections up front. Maybe over here, they're not doing that. I actually like it a lot because any out area agent, they're going to remove all the contingencies up front. It's wonderful. Once you're in contract, done. It's usually just loan and appraisal. But any market that you work with, you want to know what's the customary thing to do, so you know ahead of time. What's the big? I call it the I word. What's the I word right now? Insurance. It is a freaking nightmare right now. Does everyone realize that fire zones like it was quadrupled in size recently for insurance purposes? You guys aware of that?
Especially in Valley Springs, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so insurances, so if you can't get if you know, your AAA or your farmer's insurance can't insure you, and all of them refuse you, you have to go to the state insurance, and that is absolutely insane. How much is it, Brissa?
Well, it's 4 times the amount of regular insurance which you need as well.
Yeah.
So. My parents pay like 4,000 extra a year.
4,000 extra a year. If you went to a house and you didn't talk to the seller about that, because a lot of times they're in their grandfathered insurance and they don't know that. So if the previous agent that did the listing didn't mention that, and you're like, you know, one of our hurdles is going to be the insurance. You're like, oh my gosh, why didn't any other agents tell me that? Right? You're going to look like, okay, this person, Diego looks like he knows what he's talking about. There's no one else mentioned either the flood or fire insurance. And that's for the entire California. So I'm sure there's areas around here that are going to be affected by that. So know your things before that. I definitely recommend you, if it's the right type of person, if it's an older person, they might not be, they might have an older TV or something, but if it's someone that's younger, they're going to have everything you need to pull it up on the screen. It's super easy. I think it's locked every single appointment, because when you're coming up with a price, they're working with you in the process. We talked about inspections. I went to a house. The whole house was great. There was a big giant hole in one of the bathrooms. The subfloor was literally rotted out. And I said, we have to take care of this. I said, well, none of the other agents told me to take care of it. I'm like, well, do you want to make top dollar? Because anyone can sell a house under market value. That's the easy thing. Anyone can do that. But if you want top market value, you're going to have to take care of this. So make sure you have your licensed contractor. We can only use licensed contractors for all the work that we do. So if it's a plumber, it's got to be licensed plumber, etc. Up to $500. If the seller wants to take care of it, they can do whatever they want. Okay. But anything you see in the property, does anyone remember that Demi Moore picture where Demi Moore is basically naked in the photo, and it was a pregnancy photo. It was back in the 90s. I remember going to a property and basically they had the Demi Moore picture, and I had this delicate conversation, because that's a tough conversation to have. A great artistic photo, but this might make some people feel uncomfortable, and our goal is to cast the widest net possible. So family photos, we're going to take off anything, but I usually tell people put away alcohol, because not everyone drinks. Some people have bad connotations with it. So alcohol, I use professional staging. I believe in staging. I've had weird houses with weird floor plans. I'm like, I have no idea what this space is for, and they come up with that space for you. Right, so I recommend using stagers. I professionally house clean every single one of my houses. Why would I do? Even the houses that are newer, why would I professionally house clean? County,
Pictures,
do they make the pictures look better?
Yeah.
Do our photos look the best on the internet?
of course.
Our photos are great, and if something doesn't look right, I'll make sure we Photoshop whatever that is. I do professional house, I used to make it an option, right? Here's the difference between clean your house. If the seller cleans our house, it's like you clean your car, it's gonna be okay. If you have someone detail your car, it looks like brand new home cleaning, right? So our typical, depending on the size of the home, we're between $200 to $500. I don't ask them to pay for it, I used to, and people are like, oh, I'll just clean myself, and they always did a crappy job. I want that bathroom to look better than it ever has, and then your seller's like, oh, wow, they're just blown away by it. Right? It's a $900,000, I'm gonna spend $500 to have this house clean, right? I'm gonna use a professional photographer, it's not me with my cell phone cameras. God forbid you take photos with your cell phone. I don't know how many times I've seen that. As a buyer, when I'm working with a buyer, I just see blood in the water. I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't give a crap, right? I see that as like, or they put it on the market with one photo on, right? I'm just, I'm gonna help negotiate this agent for sure.
Small photos.
Yeah.
They're coming early.
Yes, and you're like, oh, that doesn't happen often. I look at listings every single day. So that's what I'm gonna say next is know your market. I look at hot sheets for whatever market that I'm in, I look at hot sheets. So we talked about open houses. Here's a tip. Go to the open house, you're doing your open house, and the buyer's like, man, I wish this house was a 4-bedroom, then it'd be perfect. I say, hey, there's another house that is a 4-bedroom with the same price point. I'm available right after this open house. It's vacant. Would you like to see it? And then you show the house. But you wouldn't have been able to do that unless you did your homework for it. So whatever you do open house, you should know everything about that market, all your other competition, even if it's not your listing. I don't care if it's your listing. You should have all your information for the other properties, right? Because what is your goal at that open house? To sell that house?
Sell a house.
That's right, sell a house. You're there to sell a house. You're there to sell yourself to get a buyer to work with. And buyers like to work with agents that know what they're talking about. They know the market. They know where the local Starbucks is right across the street that I've been looking at. Right? You want to know more about that neighborhood than they could possibly find on Zillow, Redfin, or something. Agents now, we have to provide more value than we've ever had to. In the past, it's like, oh, okay, I can get you access to the home. I can tell you how many square footage is. Here's the tax records for it. They can pretty much get all that already. All right, so what are you going to provide as an agent that they're not going to get? So come in with value. If the seller is, I've done this where I'm getting ready to do the listing appointment, and I'm like, let me look at some of the competition there. All right, so I look at some of the empty competition. I'm like, hey, there's a couple of houses in the market, and that one has a pool. But the other one, they're probably priced high. I went and saw it myself. It needs paint, it needs carpet, it looks terrible. Our house is gonna look like a rock star, right? And now that seller was like, oh my gosh, this guy's on top of it. Right, so always go that extra level. All right, so we're in the listing appointment. We have everything to do. Does anyone know what congruency is? Congruency. I'm surprised, Michelle. I was like,
I'm just like, are you staring at me? I mean, I haven't sold in so long.
congruency is you look a certain way for what you look a way that the buyer or seller expects. So I was tell Keone this, right? Is that we're seeing a ranch guy. I have the softest hands because I literally don't use my hands. They're too soft, right? So if I'm trying to sell a ranch property, I kid you not, I'm putting dirt in my hand.
Well, narrow
Right?
match is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Narrow match.
Yes,
I also want you to talk about how you told me about your listing presentation, how you show it on the TV.
just went through that.
I didn't hear it.
Dude.
You're right.
I was taking notes.
Oh my gosh, thank God for that.
So it's congruency. It's not just you're mirroring them, it's you're looking, talking, and acting like an agent they would want to. So everyone's watched Selling Sunset? I have to admit, I've watched that. Those agents are wearing high-end stuff. They know a lot about the property. They know the neighborhood. They know who actually is living in there. Hey, that celebrity's living here, or at night. 7 o'clock at night, you're gonna get that perfect view, right? It makes sense only for that sunset market, right? In our market, what does it make sense? Well, dressing professionally, right? I told you about the ranch, I'm putting dirt in my hand. And Bay Area, I'm wearing my Bay Area outfit. It's probably my brown shoes, I probably wear a sports coat and a black t-shirt, right? Over here, I'm probably dressing not so much like him, but probably like him, right? In a collared shirt, right? It's hot out here, so I'm probably not gonna wear shorts, but you gotta act, talk like what they expect. And if they expect you to be that type of agent, then you're gonna end up working. So let me say some things as well. Not every listing is created equal. If you have to set the proper expectations. If that person's gonna be a pain in the butt, right? You get the right persons like that, no matter what you're gonna do, you're gonna make them happy. You're gonna be, you're taking that responsibility that you're gonna take care of them. And if he called you 15 times before the listing appointment, he's gonna call you even more once you have the listing. So be prepared for that type of person. Also, sometimes I don't take listings if they're way overpriced. There's a thing that your agents tend to do, and agents that don't do business is they'll take a listing and they just want a listing. So comps say 440, how much will they take it for? Joey?
Wait, sorry.
Comps say 440, what would a bad agent take that listing for?
440.
No, a bad agent. The
Or somebody.
495.
Right.
I've had a listing, right, where I said, hey, my value is 440 on this. And I think that's probably the max. I know this area, I just sold a couple homes in this area. And they're like, well, the last agent told us 499. Well, they get the listing and honestly, my gut wrenches because I'm like, there's no way they're gonna sell that property. And they don't, right? Stays on the market. And 6 months go by and you're like, I could have sold that house twice. They finally drop it down to 430. And they sell it for 425. Right? They priced it right, they sold it for the right price point. Right? Now, do you want to take an overpriced listing? No, not if you're spending, your time is more important than anything. Not if you promise the agent that, you promise the seller that you do open houses, that you professionally market it, you pay for the cleaning, you pay for your professional photos, and you're selling overpriced house. It's never gonna sell. Doesn't make sense to do that. I'd rather not take that listing. And then I'd rather try to put an offer at the 440. But not every listing is created equal. We talk about, there's two types of people I've seen when I'm walking through the property. There's ones like, hey, go ahead, I'll be here. Just let me know if you have any questions. 100% you're gonna ask some question. I don't care what it is. The bathroom was remodeled, you say, hey, when did you remodel the bathroom? You want to be actively engaged with that seller. You see a new water heater, you say, hey, is this water heater new? They'll be like, yes, we just spent 20, they'll tell you the exact thing. It's $2,802 to replace that water heater, right? You want all information you get. You want to take notes. You want to be thoroughly engaged because that matters. If you get a client that's an engineer or an accountant, something very technical, they're wanting to know all the details of the contract. Hey, can I spend a couple hours to read that? Sure, here's a copy of it. Let me know when you're ready. But there's certain people that want to know all the absolute details. If you're going to work with someone, be prepared to be that type of agent that gives them those details back. The number one thing that I think that's important is how many times do you ask for the sale? For listing. I ask until they tell me like absolutely not gonna sell it right, I'm not gonna list it right now. Right? So, hey, I do the technique that I'm assuming this out. We're gonna set appointments up, photos of this, does this work for you? I'm gonna set photos up for this day. I'm gonna have the stager and then we're gonna do the open house the next day, right? And they're like, yeah, that works.
Sure.
Right, great, let's sign the listing agreement and then we're all set. I'm setting up all the appointments. That's how I do my close. It feels more natural. Most of the time, I focus on the reason why they need to sell. So what's the reason you need to sell? Well, we're having another baby. I need a bigger home. Right? Okay, well, if we sell this house for you, I know that we can help you buy another house and get to that bigger home that's more comfortable for your family and everyone will be happy and you'll live with there as long as you either downsize or upsize. Then I want you to use me again. So the whole listing is to set expectations correctly and to really see if you guys are both the right fit. I've done listing plans that are like, I'm not the right fit for this person. I've had people who it's like, well, we can only show it on when the moon is up, when the moon is full, and I'm not asleep, and there's an hour time frame where my kids are not going to school, and that's the time I want people to see the house. Yeah, no lockbox, there's an alarm, we have video, I'm gonna watch every single video. We have dogs, they're our family, right, so the dogs are gonna be everywhere and. You know. Don't let the cat out that wants to escape everywhere. So I've had those appointments, I'm like, you know what, I don't think we'll be a right fit. I can refer you some people, thank you so much for your time. And it's been especially in those situations where I know it's gonna be a very difficult sale and the seller's gonna be very difficult to work with. It took me years, probably a decade to learn not to take those appointments. Right, and as a new person, you probably will still take them. I'm just warning you ahead of time, when you get to the point where you have the ability to like push away listings, those are the ones you don't want to take. It's the same thing, having a buyer, I've had buyers where if this house doesn't have a tub, I don't want it. It's like, well, you look at 1,300 square foot homes. Not many 1,300 square foot homes have tubs, right? So it's either a piggy buyer, piggy seller, be careful with both will exhaust your time. I think that's pretty much what I have today. Is there any questions I can help you answer?
I have a question.
Sure.
I've been to a couple listing appointments with agents
Mhm.
and they are always overcoming the, like you said. Oh, well, this house is listed for $100,000 more than
Sure.
what the CMA report is that they're bringing, right? I like the idea of what you said about going through,
Mhm.
but can you walk through that one time on like determining that together? How do you overcome somebody who's like, I really think because this person or this is listed.
Yeah, everyone thinks that they have gold. It was incredibly difficult. So last year in November, I'm sorry, last year in March, the market was absolutely insane. You remember that?
Yeah.
Where we're all begging, we're 100, we're like, well, we'll pay 20,000 appraisal gap protection. Right, and then the same sellers, they're like, well, my neighbors sold it for 500,000, and now you're talking to them, you're like, interest rates went up. We're about 412 right now, max, and it's like, their neighbor's house was horrible, it's smaller than my house, and they go through all these things, because nobody wants to sell less of their neighbors sold for, especially if they have a great house. So now you have to break it down, so, hey, interest rates went up, and you focus on the goal. So what is your goal? Is your goal to buy another house? Guess what? It's a double-edged sword. So that's my double-edged sword. You're selling for less, but guess what? We're buying for less. And you have a lot of equity, so you're not getting a huge loan on your place, right? And you know, we date the rate, marry the house. So I've had those conversations, and we go that the whole market, not just your house, has gone down in value. This is the reality. Someone tells you that they could sell for 500, they might. That's usually needed that doesn't do that much business and is willing to waste their time. And you waste their time and your time. Is that someone you want to work with, or do you want someone go ahead?
I think people are thinking the mentality of 2 years ago. Case in point, week before last, I go up for a listing appointment, potential listing appointment at El Dorado County. 11 acres, beautiful, you know, landscape and everything. And I've done these CMAs hundreds of times. I know what I'm doing. I walked the property. I did it before. The high end, there was 790,000. And they told me they wanted 1.6 million. Do you think I was that stupid? That I'm gonna go through all the advertising and all the open houses? And I'm seeing this unrealistic of looking at 2 years ago when people were bidding $20,000, $30,000. Because interest rates dictates everything. I've been like a part-time agent. I've never capped, but my problem right now as a door knocker and a championship door knocker for 22 years,
Sure.
people invite me in, they feed me. They say, where have you been? What about the pandemic? And then I ask them, have you thought about putting your home up? No, because interest rates are too high at this point. Now, my question, and I'll quit talking here, is that you said interest rates are dropping. I've heard on July 26th, they may be going up again. So, I mean, this is what I'm dealing with. People are telling, I'm up right out on the front in their face, and I'm asking them point blank, why is it that you're holding back at this point and you have a beautiful home and they're waiting for interest rates to go down because they don't think they can get much profit out of the home when they look at it 2 years ago?
Can I give you the?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Here's what you're not focusing on. Why are they selling?
Why am I selling?
No, so when I ask people that, they're like, well, I want to move closer to my grandkids. I'm like, okay. But I don't want to get, I don't want to get, I don't want to lose all my equity. I don't want to give away my house for free.
Yeah.
That's it. And we go, if they're buying and selling, I go through the double-edged sword. So I'm not as, I can get you that where you could be with your, you know, you can buy a house for your grandkids. Unfortunately, the market dictates what we sell it for. But if you want to accomplish your goal, I am certain I can get that accomplished for you. Right, so you focus on the reason that you're even talking to you in the first place. And sometimes you have to figure that out. I have a guy that's like, well, I'm only selling if I can get top dollar for it. And I spend more time with him. We're talking, we're really hashing it out. It's, you know, I'm losing my house. Right? Had nothing to do with getting top dollar. It was, he just wanted the most from his house because he needed that money to buy something else or maybe rent for a while, right? And it was way different than what he told me. But when I started to listen, to ask the right questions, I actually really dug deep and found what those real reasons are. Right. So sometimes you need to have a heart to heart with them. Like, you know,
So like what Leslie just said, it's becoming a needs-based market again. You need to dig deep and find out what the need is. It's not a want, it's a need. It's completely two different things. Diego, what is the best advice somebody has ever given you?
best advice. Well,
Besides-
besides what you say, yeah. Probably the best advice is focus on what you really enjoy. Right. If it's business, let's say real estate. Real estate's so far that you could go from lending, you can go to commercial real estate properties. I like working with investors, so that's kind of what I focus my time on. If I wanted to just focus with home buyers and like, because that's a thrill. When you find a person the right property, and I really enjoy that, then I'm going to focus on that side of it. So focus what you really like to do. It'll feel less like work by doing it.
If I was a new agent, what would be the best advice you can give me?
If I was a new agent, find the cheapest ways to plant the most seeds. Whatever you do, whatever you can do, you can do open houses, and that gets you 10 properties. Every time you do open house, you get 10 people. So there's 10 contacts, right? And they're qualified leads. And then you put a Facebook ad on command. You do social media posts. So I'm a big proponent. There's different people that have varying success. I'm not that good looking, so I don't have as much success, but at least do 1 to 2 deals that are generated from social media. So if you told me if I posted 50 times a year for like 3 minutes, then I would get 2 deals out of the year. I would do it in a heartbeat. Why don't we do it? It's usually laziness. It's usually something that we don't think we're going to get leads or business from. But people have created a whole business just on posting stuff on social media. So if I was a new agent, I'd be all over that.
Okay, so this is, I want you to talk about Moneyball. What did we talk about when I interviewed you a few, let's say, 2 years ago? We talked about Moneyball. And what did you do with that and how it helped out with command and so forth?
Oh, it's Moneyball is. If you put an ad, what's the big newspaper here? SACB. How much would one page ad in SACB cost?
Where is everybody?
Nobody even knows because you're.
They have a paywall on
It's probably like $1,200 just for that one page. Like it's insane amount of money. When I used to use the newspaper, like when I first started, it was like $400 for like a little ad like this.
Right.
And it was a couple thousand viewership, right? That's really the people that might see it. It's very, very minuscule. So if I spend $300 on Facebook, I can get 16,000 people impressions. Right? That's a whole lot of money compared to the same viewership. So when you're judging kind of what a marketing dollar does for you, you judge it by what type of exposure it gets you for the price. Right. So we talked about Moneyball, Oakland A's. They always have the worst budget, and the team's even horrible now. But they, instead of focusing on home run hitters, they focus on people with higher batter average. They walk more, right? So we're focusing on what the cheapest ways for us to get people in our face, right? The more people in our face, it equals more business.
And I would say, again, it goes back to doing something with joy,
Yes,
because then it doesn't really work.
yeah, absolutely.
So you do command ads, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I remember like when I first started, I did like a $50 command ad and got like 30 leads from it.
So what's your conversion ratio on those?
It's not very good, but the ads are so cheap.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so, and then I view it as exposure as well. And I show the sellers like, hey, I had 10,000 people looked at your house, right? They're like, oh, what's getting out there? Well, I guess it's not advertising that my house is not selling. Maybe it's the price or maybe it's the condition.
I love
Right.
that.
Any other questions?
What CRM do you primarily use, Command?
We use a couple of different ones. So,
It's okay, go ahead.
yeah, so I don't use, I use Command a little bit, but I use Real Scout a lot. Are you guys familiar with that? It's a drip campaign on steroids. It works amazing. I wish Command had those features. But it ties to your MLS and it's insanely good.
And it's a CRM or just drip campaign?
That's drip campaign. With CRM, we also, I mean, the type of marketing we use Podio. You want to talk about Podio, Young?
Yeah, so we use several different ones. We use Follow Up Boss, which is mainly the main CRM. You can connect that with other apps that can send out reminders and drip campaigns as well. Real Scout ties into that, and then we also use for other marketing purposes for our text messaging campaigns. We use Podio, which is another CRM, and that one is a little bit more difficult for new agents to get used to. You almost have to take a class on it for like 3 months in order to like fully feel comfortable using it. But it's a little bit more advanced for a lot.
Yeah.
And how much does that cost?
We're spending $200 a month for a team.
And command is
It's free,
free,
obviously.
right?
Yeah.
And so, and it texts, right? And it does the email drip campaign. It's just all about learning it.
Yeah.
Well, which, however, with them, which I've always told him, your success is working.
Yeah.
I do not want to shift you out of that. However, I always say, try this, just
Right.
try this, right? And it's working because you're doing command ads. So
Yeah.
that works and this works over here. That's equal success.
Right.
So I'm okay with that.
Whatever you can be consistent at. is the
Yes.
main deal.
And the best CRM is the one you're using.
That's the answer when somebody asks on the lab codes or any other for app.
The one you,
Do it. Which CRM should I get?
Right.
Whichever one you're gonna use. That's the best one.
Google Sheets works for a good time. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be expensive, just as long as you're tracking. We still use Google Sheets sometimes sometimes for some of our contacts. But at the end of the day, if you're using that and you're calling them and following up, that's the main issue, is following up.
Yeah,
Diego, do you do events for your customers, your customers?
we've done a couple of marketing events for a segment of our business, but we haven't done events. Honestly, we're just way too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we probably are missing business out by not doing it, but we're pretty busy.
And then you also do masterminds. You put together masterminds
Yeah,
with top
yeah.
agents.
Yeah,
And
I
other
do.
offices too.
I do masterminds for top agents that specifically work with investors, and those are great.
Does anybody have any other questions for this man? Go ahead.
And where did you get most of your seller leads from? Referrals, pay per clicks, social media?
I get a good percentage of referrals that people, I work primarily with investors at this point. So I get a lot of investors that repeat back to our team, and then we generate a lot of our own listings.
And do you see the investor market growing right now or?
No, I mean, we're consistent with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time someone asks like, oh, the market's terrible, how's your business? We're doing great because we have to move with the waves.
We'll find the deals for
Yeah.
it.
Have you dealt with cryptocurrency and how do you handle that?
I have not dealt with that at all.
Okay, there are investors out
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
there. I
Yeah,
want to do it that way. And I don't know how much I trust that program.
yeah, I unless you know it backwards or forward, I would definitely not be into it.
Do you guys have any questions for him? Any? Now's the time. You're in front of a very dynamic team lead here.
Finding your niche, right? I know I've done open houses with you, and I always tell people, you wanna know how to get listings, go at shadow.
Yeah.
Because I love how you work when it comes to your way of thinking.
Sure.
Just like flipping,
Yeah.
right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, how do you take, how do you do that? So I know you found your niche and that's what it is. I know you well, but how did you, what do you do to grow it? I know you had told me you do a class, right? Or you meet with a bunch of investors.
Yes.
Right?
So,
We need to get this back over to you, or is it?
oh, it's not me.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't stop learning. I take classes, but I'm very specific on what classes I'm gonna take. Like, I'll research the class and say, okay, I'm gonna learn something from it. If I can learn 5% information, I'm all over that class. That's kind of like my benchmark. If it's more than that, I should be paying way more for that class. But if I get 5% out of it, I'm all over that class.
That's amazing. So Diego also teaches Ignite, just so you know. So in the past, what we've done is we've taken the ALC in our top 20% and they taught Ignite. You taught Ignite yesterday. and
Yeah,
I
I
thought
did.
it was a fabulous class. So
Yeah.
thank you for always giving back
Of
and
course.
coming all this way to teach us. So thank you, Diego.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And he's got a family reunion, mega camp. So, knowledge is power, you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Well, that's- yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.